Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Haolonggood release. Finally, the Tyrannosaurus Rex are here, and we have not one but two different versions of it. You can see the box art shows off both different versions as well as the species name and the scale associated with the figure. Up here on the top we've got quite the fun little kind of checklist here showing off all sorts of other figures that are available from Haolonggood. Of course, the Haolonggood logo on the side, and when you turn it around it's pretty close to the same thing, same images basically of the Tyrannosaurs, but you know, different stuff going on as far as like the species name and logo and everything. And I believe both boxes are the same, potentially. Yeah, so basically what it is as you can see here, the dinosaurs are kind of flip-flopped on the opposite sides of the boxes. So again, we're going to pop them open. We'll check them out from there. So here are our new Haolonggood Tyrannosaurus Rex, and wow, are those ever beauties. Man, did they ever do such a great job on these. And I know what many people are probably thinking straight out of the gate, and that's the fact that, you know, they are lacking lips. But I don't think it's that big of a deal because, again, you know, some people might be a little partial to it. And if you don't like that, you know, if you like having lips on your Tyrannosaurs, there are other options out there. But I think until I see a T-Rex in person, in front of my face, alive and well, I will never truly know for sure if this dinosaur did have lips or not. So I'm pretty happy with this. Again, I personally think that they probably did have lips, and I would have rather seen this with lips, but it is what it is. I did just want to kind of get that out of the way straight out of the gate, and I'm not really going to be bothering talking about that anymore as far as the lip versus lipless kind of argument, because trust me, it's like an all-day thing all the time. But as far as these figures go, they are without a doubt some of, if not the best looking Tyrannosaurus Rex figures, especially as far as how nice the detail looks and how good the paint looks on these figures that I have ever seen. They are truly phenomenal here in hand and miles better than the very first version from Haolonggood. So let me readjust the camera here just briefly, and we'll bring our T-Rex up here and get a nice closer look at it. And as you can see, again, the detail is incredible on this. It absolutely pops in the most impressive way. Each and every scale is honestly jumping off of the model. And because it is so vibrant, you can really see all of the variation to the style and sizes of the scales. We do, of course, have those larger scales kind of moving along the lower part of the snout, basically along the jawline. Finer skin texture as you move up further. Focus, there we go, further up toward the palate and up into the eye socket and everything. You do have a darker tone in the eye socket with a darker brown. The eyes are painted very nicely with a yellow and a black pupil. They also have a nice gloss coat to them. There's a dark wash present on both of the figures, which I personally really love, helping to continue to highlight all of the fine detail. And right here in the face, there is so much variation of color for this T-Rex. You could see different variations of oranges, kind of like tans. You've got blues. You have all kinds of colors. I could see grays. So much variation of color. We can see the nostrils sculpted out. We also have some crests up and over the eyes here. All of the paint work on this is so smooth. It is crazy how smooth. I will say I do notice one thing. When you have the mouth kind of closed, you can see a little gap right there. So it doesn't close completely, and that is as closed as it gets. So there is a little bit of a gap right there between you know, the upper and lower jaw when the mouth is closed. We can also see the ear back here sculpted out as well. And then, of course, some quite nice looking fine detail, as well as a really light striping effect moving along the top of the head, and some nice really light blues and purples and all sorts of colors on this one. I think it looks excellent as far as the coloration goes. As you can see, we've got a very nice articulated jaw. It works really smoothly. We've got the tongue there on the inside of the mouth sculpted out, also hit with like a reddish wash to add a little variation of color. You can see more pinkish tones and variation of color throughout. The reddish wash also extends into like the gums and stuff, which we can see. That also looks really cool. We can see the teeth all sculpted out individually, all painted individually. They are looking quite realistic. If my camera would focus, there we go. You can see kind of painted with like almost like a dirty light tan sort of a color then looks like maybe there's a dark wash over them as well, just to add a little bit of kind of dirtiness to the teeth. We also have a nice gloss coat on the teeth, and of course in general for the inside of the mouth, we could see that red wash highlighting the detail here on the skin, kind of stretching with the mouth open. And then we can see the same for the upper side of the inside of the mouth. The detail in here is actually quite impressive. Not that I expected any less, but I can even see like some purplish tones and everything back there in the back of the mouth. So the mouth open looks absolutely fantastic. As we move back into the body, my camera again doesn't want to focus. There we go. We can see the scales look really, really good. There is a seam that we can see moving up and over the head here, and it wouldn't be so obvious, I think, except for the fact that there's like some glue that is kind of extended out into that area, showing the seam, kind of making it shine. I may not have even seen that at first, but you can take notice to it, but it's not super, super obvious. More so now that I kind of pinpointed it, though. But as you move back, you can see some darker patterning pick up, as well as some gorgeous blues. You also have some yellowish and orangish sort of tones as you move down, like some oranges right here that move back into like a yellowish orange in the throat region. The skin detail looks excellent in this area as well. The scales continue to look really vibrant as we move back. We can even see a little tensing in the neck. We have some skin wrinkles as you lead down closer to the arm. We can kind of make out the shoulder blade. We also have some bulkiness to the dinosaur in the belly area, making it look like it's a big kind of beefy T-Rex, which I quite like as well. Moving down, you can see the scales looking awesome. Again, in every area, this may be the most vibrant when it comes to the detail out of any Haolonggood figure I've seen. As you lead into the arms, you can see we do have the very nice small T-Rex arms. We also have kind of like a light wash within the grayish tones. It kind of transitions to a gray as you move down, basically hitting the grayish tone right around the elbow area, and then you can see a light wash highlighting the detail really nicely, which I definitely appreciate. We can see some scoots moving down the arms, down into the fingers, and the nails are painted with a nice glossy black. Moving back up into the stomach, again, the detail looks really nice. More variation of color with the yellowish tones, some of that darker kind of patterning and spotting throughout. You have some greens and some blues, like so much color, and it is really vibrant, just like the detail is. As we move along the back, we see the spinal column. Again, more of the patterning as we lead back. There's the hip bone protruding through the skin. The legs look very muscular as you move down through the thigh, but they're not overly defined. I feel like they look really quite nice as a whole. Moving down, there is the kneecap right there. Leading down into the knee, though, you can see a seam where the leg is connected. Again, I don't think it stands out too much, but something that I wanted to point out. But I really love the way that the leg is painted as you lead down, again with that grayish tone and the light wash. It looks so real and natural as far as what I would expect on the leg of a dinosaur like this. It also heavily reminds me of like an emu or something like that. If you ever see an emu, you'll always see like the dusty sort of lighter colors underneath the grayish tones like this. It just looks very similar to the way you would see the feet of like an emu, a very large kind of flightless bird would have, and we can see that same thing kind of portrayed here with this T-Rex. The detail continues to look super vibrant as you move down. We've got the nails painted with a black again, and yes, you can see the dew claws are present. As we move back up, we've got a little bit of fine skin detail with kind of like some creases and wrinkles and kind of like skin stretching and stuff as you move back from the thigh into the tail, and then we still have the blues following along, but they start to taper off to like an orangish tone, actually more of like a tan at first, and then transitioning to an orange for the tip of the tail with a nice brown striping as we lead out. All of the transitions on this figure are excellent. Like, they are so smooth, and like these greens and blues are so vibrant. They look really nice and really natural, but flashy at the same time. There is a lighter tone following along the underside. We can see the cloaca present. Also, the cloaca is highlighted with the darker tone, and as we continue to follow along the underbelly, you can see just how impressive all of the detail is leading the entire way through. Of course, once we turn the T-Rex around, you can see the head sculpt looks just as nice on this side as it did on the first side. All of the same sort of paintwork and color variation. Leading back, we can take note to the fact that the head is kind of turned slightly away from us, so we can see the neck in a little bit of a different light, but not a whole lot. For the most part, it looks fairly similar to the way we had seen it on the first side. Moving back, the arm is also in pretty much the same position. The biggest difference on this side as opposed to the other side would be the positioning of the leg as the Tyrannosaur is walking along, taking a very obvious step as the toes are leaving the ground. The sculpting of the foot looks, again, just like it did on the first side, but obviously positioned quite differently as the toes are leaving the ground. We again have the grayish tones with the light wash, though, and the black nails. And you can take note to the skin kind of stretching off of the stomach right there with the movement of the leg. The seam in the leg isn't quite as obvious as it was on the first side because of all of the wrinkling and bending in the skin right there, but we can really see how nice and tensed that calf muscle is right there. And then you again lead back out into the tail with a really nice curve as you lead out toward the tip of the tail. Now we do of course have the other variant kind of giving us a male and female when it comes to these Tyrannosaurs. Sculpt-wise, I do believe this is exactly the same as the other version. We just have a different color variant, and you can see this one has a lot of really cool kind of, again, lots of variation of color, but we have like light yellowish brown sort of tones for a lot of the face and a lot of the body of this one. We can see some greenish tones down here in the lower jaw, though, and again, the detail looks so nice, and the dark wash really helping to make all of the detail pop. We've got the eyes painted again with a nice yellowish tone with a black pupil. I'm wondering how they look when you look at it from the front. They look pretty good. They don't look like they're perfectly focused on us straightforward, but in general, you can see how nice looking the Tyrannosaur is looking at it from the front. Of course, we have the articulated jaw. The paintwork of the inside of the mouth looks pretty much the same on this one as it did on the other one, basically pinkish tones with the reddish wash, and of course the teeth look the same as far as the tone of color, maybe a little bit darker, but they do also again feature the nice gloss coat. We do have orange crests for this one as well, just like we had on the first version. As you can see, lots of variation of color with different shades of browns and yellows and greens and tans and oranges, like lots of color in that area. You do also have a striping effect moving over the top of the head. You could see oranges leading down along the top of the head and the top of the neck before again disappearing, leading down into the body. We have pretty much the same sort of patterning and style to the colors of this one, but just different tones of color. I meant as far as like the patterning and paint scheme, different colors, different tones of colors, but similar style patterning and stuff. But as you move down, you can see kind of like a lighter tone overtake a lot of the body, which really shows off how nice the scales look. You can see some osteoderms kind of popping up here and there as well. Or just maybe larger scales, but they sort of look a little osteoderm-like. But you also have, again, more of the patterning and stuff moving through. You have some yellowish and greenish tones as you move further down. The arms, again, have kind of like that same grayish tone like we saw in the first version with the light wash and the black for the nails. You also have a lighter tone for the underbelly of the Tyrannosaurus. They did a good job, actually, before I go too far, of concealing that seam that we saw in the other one here, because that darker pattern kind of runs right over it, sort of obscuring it a little bit, so that was pretty nice of them. But as you move back, again, you start to see the body transition away from this lighter tone to a mixture of yellows and greens, and of course the dark browns and stuff. Leading down through the legs, you see more of that green following along the back of the thigh, darker browns following along the front of the thigh, moving down into the shin, again before transitioning to that gray, which we can see, again, the light wash and everything for the feet. That looks so nice. And as you move back up, you again have more of the mixtures of like tans and yellows and greens moving out with the darker patterning before again transitioning to an orange tip for the tail with the darker brown patterning leading out, and again the lighter tone following along the underside and everything like we saw on the other version. And then of course it's going to look pretty much the same on this side as it did, focus, there we go, as it did on the first side. Man, that is just one of the nicest looking Tyrannosaurus head sculpts that I've ever seen. And of course the paintwork on these are just beyond impressive. Easily some of the nicest work, in my opinion, that Haolonggood has produced so far. As far as a size goes for the T-Rex, lengthwise, actually I'm going to turn it because the tail curves in this direction. So lengthwise, from the snout to the tail, about 12 3/4 inches, or around 32.5 centimeters. And then move it back for a height to the back of the neck there just shy of 5 inches or around 12.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Haolonggood Tyrannosaurus Rex, giving you a good feel, a good idea of the size. And obviously it's kind of similar in size to Mr. Papo T-Rex. He's just standing up a lot taller than the Haolonggood T-Rex is. But for another comparison, here is PNSO's Cameron next to our Haolonggood T-Rex, and as you can see, Cameron is a little bit larger than our Haolonggood Tyrannosaurus, but not by a whole lot. We've also got Wilson, the Tyrannosaurus Rex from PNSO, and yes, you guessed it, pretty much the same case, as it is just ever so slightly larger than our Haolonggood version. There is also the Rebor version of the T-Rex, which is definitely a good bit larger. That's one of the larger versions of a more up-to-date T-Rex on the market, so I definitely expected that one to be larger in general. We've also got one of the Rebor Grab-and-Go Tyrannosaurus, which as you can see is a bit larger as well. And then one final comparison with the recent recurve version of the T-Rex, which we can see is very, very close in size to the Haolonggood version. Almost, I would say, identical in size next to the Haolonggood release. So if you do have the recurve version, you're going to have a pretty good idea of the size of the Haolonggood T-Rex. So these brand new Haolonggood Tyrannosaurus Rex are absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. Far and away, two of the best, if not the best, Tyrannosaurus Rex figures that I have in my collection right now. When it comes to so many different areas, the fine detail is mind-blowing on these. It is exceptional. Not only is it extremely highly detailed, but the detail is so crisp and so vibrant and just pops on the sculpt in maybe some of the most impressive sculpts I've ever seen when it comes to fine detail. On top of that, it's got a nice natural pose, just kind of walking along, really quite elegant at the same time. And of course, we have incredible paint application for both of them. I always love the paint schemes that Haolonggood comes up with. They're always really creative and really vibrant and flashy, but usually quite natural and really do look like they could be the colors of the dinosaurs that they are, of course, on. And I definitely feel the same way about these two Tyrannosaurs. Again, really quite flashy and vibrant, but they find a way to make it look like it could, without a doubt, be the colors of these Tyrannosaurs. Again, some people won't like them because they don't have lips. It's really up to your preference, but I personally am a massive fan of both of these, and I cannot recommend them enough. They are, without question, two of the nicest T-Rex figures you are going to find. So if you are interested in grabbing these and adding them to your collection, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that right now through Lana Time Shop. So make sure you check that link, grab yourself some of these T-Rex figures, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.